Welcome to the Windy City Bender podcast with your hosts, Nolly, Poetzy, Jarom, and Tan.
Hello, welcome to episode 85 of the Windy City Bender podcast. This is a little bit different episode. It is going to be our best of 2019. We took a couple of some of our favorite clips from some of the interviews that we did this year. It has been an absolutely bananas of a year for us. What kind of just started as a little bit of an excuse for us to just talk hockey, turned into kind of a little bit more. Talking to a bunch of NHLers, a bunch of guys from the 2010, 2013, 2015 Stanley Cup champion Blackhawks, a bunch of actors from my favorite show. I think the guys feel the same way. Letterkenny, comedian Earl Skakel, and then just a bunch of different other amazing people. I know, unfortunately, we weren't able to really get everybody into this best of. It's not because we didn't like them a certain way or anything like that. It's just there's so much, and we just didn't want to overkill recapping everything that we did. I did, however, was going to keep this strictly interview, but the very first clip you're going to hear is kind of the expanded version of Poetzy's take on Antti Raanta being the guy in Arizona, and how people who were saying Darcy Kuemper needs to be the number one guy need to check himself. So we kind of did Poets dirty a little bit on social media, clipping out his part. So to give him a little payback, I gave him the entire clip of what was said and what everybody else said in that. But other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed listening to us this past year. We really enjoyed putting the content out for you guys. Really hoping that 2020 is going to be even better. Hopefully we'll get a lot more guests on the show. If there's anybody you guys want us to try to see, they can get on, hit us on our website, WCBenders.com. Head up in our DMs. Everything should be at WCBender or WCBPodcast. If you know us, send us a text. But yeah, we really appreciate everybody listening. Definitely makes this a lot easier to keep doing, and we really hope that you guys will come back and see where we go in 2020. The best way to make sure you do that is to subscribe on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Follow all of our social media. We will always be posting up when and where episodes are going to be located. Subscribe to our YouTube channel on Facebook and Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Just the more ratings we get and reviews we get, the better our show grows and the more people see it. So any little review would be nice. Again, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you had a great year, and have a fantastic New Year's, and we will see you in 2020.
The other thing, too, anybody who thinks that Antti Raanta needs to earn his spot back from Darcy Kuemper is high as a kite.
Yeah.
He is your number one goaltender in Arizona. I've seen that multiple places where they're like, "Oh, Antti Raanta's got his work cut out for him to beat out Darcy Kuemper." Shut up.
So what?
Maybe if he
Shut up.
Maybe if they made the playoffs last year and he came back healthy and Kuemper was hot going into the playoffs, then he's going to sit. But other than that, no, he's not sitting.
No.
I was going to say,
and that just shows Kemper's going to be a stellar backup for Raanta.
Oh yeah.
We have probably the biggest interview that we've gotten so far. Former Stanley Cup champion, Memorial Cup champion, World Junior champion, 2004 second round, 32nd overall pick by the Chicago Blackhawks. David Bolland is on the show. David, how are you?
What's going on, guys? I'm good. How about you guys?
Oh, we are fantastic now.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
That's awesome.
pumped. How was it adjusting from being the guy that was kind of the go-to guy on the London Knights to, an NHL team where you kind of had to figure out what your role was?
Yeah, it was a bit of a change. I was that go-to guy. I was on the power play and I was scoring goals and I was the main guy. And when I got to the NHL, I had to figure something else out and had to figure out how to stay up in the NHL. I played a year in the AHL and I put up some good points there, but there's a huge jump from junior to the AHL and then to the NHL. So the first year in the AHL, I was still trying to find my way. And then, excuse me, and then the year after, once I got up there, I think it was Q that kind of put me in that third line role. And I was sick of riding the bus, and I'd rather be flying on planes and eating nice meals instead of eating bar food. So it's a huge adjustment from the AHL to the NHL, and I wanted to stay up in the NHL, and my role was soon to be that shutdown guy.
What was it like, being coached by one of probably arguably the greatest coaches in the NHL?
Yeah, Q's a great coach. He's a great manages the guys. He's a great guy coach. He was always there when we needed him, and he was great with everything. He's one of the best coaches I've played for. For guys to have him and to play for him, you're lucky to have him because he teaches you a lot about the game and off ice and a lot about everything. So I think Q's going to go down as a Hall of Fame coach, and he's one of the best coaches out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think we all kind of know from that 2010 year, just seeing how the videos of how relaxed you guys were through the playoffs against the Sharks and stuff. You guys were playing Wii and everything like that. I mean, what was it like going through that year in 2010, winning your first cup, seeing everybody raise the cup for the first time, and just how much fun you guys were having?
Yeah, I had lots of fun. It was crazy because you see the guys now. If you can imagine, if we could have kept that team, we probably would have had 4 or 5 straight cups in a row. But we had to lose Buff and Ladd and Versteeg and all those guys, and it kind of sucks with all that cap issues. But we had tons of fun. I just remember every time after we won a series, we'd all go out downtown Chicago and have a few beers and enjoy the first round, and we'd have a good night, and we'd be relaxed and get ready for the second round. So we had tons of fun that year, and just doing it in Chicago is one of the best cities.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are all, like we said, you guys all kind of came up together. I mean, you guys were all in early 20s, so I mean, I got to imagine it was a good time, especially in downtown Chicago for you guys.
Yeah, it was. We were still young, and we were going out and having some fun, so it was a good time.
So moving ahead a little bit to the 2013 season, that was just an absolute magical season. Started out with the lockout when you guys came on, and then just had that unbelievable run of just points every, what was that, and being like 20, 25 games? Yeah. What was it like just being like, what was it like in the locker room and just around the team, like as that's going on? Like, do you guys was it like known how special that was, or was it just kind of business as usual and then appreciate it later on?
Well, it's business as usual, but it was still a lockout. It was that lockout year, so that whole first half of the season that you're playing, you're kind of just skating and you're getting ready for the season, or you never know when the season's going to be, right? So you have to be ready, and we were coming in, and we knew we had to be ready for this season and for the playoffs. So it was a great season and a great finish to that 2013 year, because it was just great beating Boston. So
yeah, I mean, what really happened towards the end of that game? I don't know if you remember it all or recall, but
I think I blanked and missed it. I don't know.
Yeah, I went by pretty quick there. Those 2 goals came quick.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get much better for you. I mean, everybody dreams of scoring that game-winning goal. I mean, what was it like for you, and why the yard sale? Why'd you toss everything?
Yeah, like everybody asked, did you think the game was over? But the game wasn't over. I knew the game wasn't over. If you go back and look at the tape, you see who was it? Is it Boychuk or something like that?
Yeah, it was Boychuk. Yeah.
So when Boychuk, he had his stick, and his stick came over my hands, and when he caught it, he was kind of caught my hands and didn't let go. So when I started pulling, I just pulled, and I just said, "Fuck it," just threw the gloves off, and
Game's over.
And I was like, well, the game was over. So I just threw the gloves off of the stick and celebrated. I couldn't believe how quick those 2 goals came out with Bickell and myself scoring there. So it was just a quick moment, and Wojciech got my gloves caught, and I just let him go.
Well, were you surprised that Q had thrown your line out there with about a minute and I don't even know how many seconds left to go in a tie game? I mean, you guys were probably celebrating on the bench. Kane, Taves, Bickell, Keith, Seabrook, all these, top guys, top scoring guys are out on the ice. Were you surprised that Q had thrown your line out there to kind of finish off the game, or was it just, all right, let's go finish this?
No, like normally, I think it was like me, Krugs, and Fro. So our line was kind of normally the shutdown line, and I forget, I'm not even sure who was on the line, who was out there, who we were against. But normally we go out there to make sure that we'd shut the line down, or we had to keep the scoring down, or if it's the top line. But when Q threw us out there, we were ready to get out there, and hey, whatever happens, at least we go into OT or go back to before even the first goal by Bickell, we were kind of like, okay, well, we'll just go back to Chicago and we'll win the cup there, and because we won it away in Philly the first time, so the second time would be at home would be nice. But after we scored those 2 goals, we kind of thought, well, it's over now, so we'll just win it here in Boston.
Dave, I gotta thank you for that goal, by the way. Back then I had accidentally forgotten like what day it was. I kind of mixed my days up, and I actually went on a Tinder date during the cup final of Game 6, and everything was going crazy. And then you won the game, and just helped me seal the deal that night. It was absolutely fantastic. So I gotta thank you for that one.
So you got a goal and an assist on that
Congratulations.
one.
Is that when did you lose your virginity?
No, I mean before then, but
oh, that's awesome. But speaking of like Frolik and Kruger, I mean, that line was unreal. You 3 together were so good. Like you said, you were so good at shutting down, and then you can go out and score a goal, no problem. I mean, what was it like playing with those guys? Did you guys just have unreal chemistry, or what was it?
No, we were kind of flip-flopping. I know I came back from I think it was a groin injury in that Detroit game, so I was kind of up and down and wasn't in my role, and things were going up and down. So I know my groin was still a little bit tweaked, but I came back to play in I guess that Detroit series. But with playing with Krugs and Frolik, it's kind of a safe line. You knew if something went wrong in our defensive end, I knew I could count on Fro and Kruger to be there for me, because they're great defensive guys, and they were also had a little bit of offensive skill to help out. So I think as a shutdown line, we were great, and I was just glad I was with those guys when I scored that game-winning goal.
Any good stories about parties after the cup wins or anything like that you'd like to share?
Yeah, we had some good times. I think the one there was pretty sure it was the first cup. I think our ownership, our president, and I think GM said, don't take it to Wrigleyville, because it'll get a little crazy. And I think a few of us were like, well, we got to take it to Wrigleyville. It'd be awesome. So we were at the bleachers, the buildings across from Wrigley, and we took it up top there. Yeah, so we took it over there, and we had some fun with it. We were filling up with beer and tequila and drinking out of it. And I just remember everybody from the game was looking back on us, and they weren't watching the Cubs game. And then after that, the Cubs game was done, and we were partying up on there, and people came out on the street, and the street was so packed we had to get police escorts to come out and get us through the crowd. So there's lots of stories and fun times with that thing, and I just thought that we got to experience with the Chicago fans and take it out and around so all the Chicago fans can experience it as well.
All right, so today we have a special guest joining us. He is the voice of Barry Jelly on Adult Swim's The Jellies. He is a roast master and just an overall funny guy. Please welcome comedian Earl Skakel. But first off, what really got you into hockey?
I actually grew up somewhat of a Rangers fan because for some weird reason, the cable system I had in my house got channel WOR, Channel 9 in New York, and they televised probably about 30 to 40 Ranger games a year. So I was much more familiar with the Rangers growing up, and I was obsessed with one player by the name of Barry Beck, who at the time, now he wouldn't be a big player at all, but back then he was 6'3", 220, definitely the biggest player in the league at that time, maybe he and Clark Gillies. And he was just so good. And he had this wild, what we call out here in Hollywood, a Jew fro. It was like a white guy's afro. And he was, he had the hardest shot in the league. He was the best body checker in the league, arguably the best fighter in the league, along with Clark Gillies. And you never got to see them fight each other because they had a handshake agreement. Unless it's really a extenuating circumstance, I won't fight you. So I just became obsessed with him, and then got into, George McPhee, who now is, of course, the GM of the Vegas Knights. And the 80s was a fantastic time to become a hockey fan.
Oh yeah,
the sport was so wild, and the rivalries were just, the Nordiques and the Montreal Canadiens each game would take 3 or 4 hours. There were so many fights and skirmishes. So I really became in love with that part of the game, which is completely devoid in today's game.
Yeah, you definitely don't have that today. There's like those games that you'll get sometimes where you see glimpses of like the past and how it used to be, when like sometimes teams just like absolutely hate each other for whatever reason, and it's just like 200, 300 probably minutes in a game, and like those are always so fun to see still, but definitely far and few between. Not like it used to be.
It's I watch regular season hockey now, and it's like the games are a glorified scrimmage. And that's why I still love playoff hockey, because that's about the closest things you'll get in terms of what the old days were like. It's just there were some great series this year. Columbus and Tampa they didn't fight a lot, but I don't think they fought at all. But it was you had to fight for every square inch of ice, and the Stanley Cup Finals wasn't. I don't think there was a fight. I don't think there was a fight in the playoffs, but it was very emotional. But I'm not saying I expect bench clearing brawls in every game, but the regular season is pretty boring hockey. It's in this era.
It is, yeah. What you talk about, we grew up watching 90s hockey, so we kind of got a little spillover of the 80s and all that. And I would say now it's like I do love the game. I love just seeing the skill players out there. We get to watch Patrick Kane every night kind of thing, but it's like at the same time, it's like I kind of feel bad for the new fans, because there's just something about that grit hockey, old school hockey, that it's just a completely different level than what this game is now. And I almost wonder if like some of the new fans would appreciate it as much if they, knew the history of the game like that.
Oh, which is what makes YouTube great. If you go, and I get no money from directing people to this particular video, but it's a 9-minute Barry Beck highlight clip, and it's probably like 30 of his hits, a couple of his fights, but every single hit would be a penalty in this era. He's running guys, he's jumping at them, he's clotheslining them, not getting called. The emotion that evoked, because then the other team, there was one play where he literally picked up Bob Gould of the Washington Capitals, picked him up and just threw him into the boards, and just the next 2 minutes of that game was like a Kiss concert. It was so exciting, because then you get the Capitals riled up, and then the Rangers, and back then, like in the Rangers case, they had 5-6 tough guys on the team. Like You know, you had Beck, you had a guy, Ed Hospodar, you had Ron Greschner was a tough guy, George McPhee, Chris Katsopoulos, the Maloney brothers. I mean, nowadays you're lucky if you have one guy.
Yeah, and that guy also has to be able to skate fast and pretty much do something else besides just fighting if they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like the Blackhawks had a guy in the 80s by the name of Wayne Van Dorp, who I don't think he literally didn't start skating until he was like 15. But he was so fun to watch because he was just like Sloth from the Goonies out there. You know, and you might argue it's maybe better you get rid of guys like that. You know, but I still kind of selfishly miss guys like him in the league just because you knew when he was out there something was going to go down.
All right, we are joined today by a special guest, VIP from the CPHL, and all other kinds of letters in there too. Goaltender, how are you? Cody Karpinski. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, not doing too bad. How about you guys?
Doing really good, really good. Excited to have you on, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You know Zach from God, it's weird to call you Zach. I'm just gonna call you Jarom.
Yeah, please.
It's weird to call you know Jarom from the CPHL. How did you get involved with that kind of thing?
I think it was last season, the first season. I'm pretty sure it was something along the lines of like Anders Sorensen just shot me a text and was like, "Hey, would you mind coming out? We don't have a goalie or something for one of our teams." And like I was already skating with there's a big pro group there at this point it was MB, but yeah, he just shot me a text and was like, "Hey, would you mind filling in?" And I guess pretty much they kept including me the week after and the week after, and I guess I just stuck or something, more or less along the lines.
Guess you had an okay game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's if I remember correctly, I think we actually got shelled really bad. like I was real busy, and especially for these games, I'm skating in the morning normally beforehand, so I'm already kind of could be tired, and I mean for instance last night I think they stopped counting Sparks' shots at 61, and so I was on the Warrior bench for that. Rubber for sure.
I was on the Warrior bench for that, and it got to a point where Bollig was like, "You know what? We want fucking 80." And then they stopped counting them at 60, and every time a shot went on net, Bollig's like, "Fucking count it!" Like they were getting so pissed about it.
Yeah, Garrett had mentioned that they had stopped counting, and that they were trying. I had heard 70, and I mean, how even if it was only 61, like that's more than a shot a minute at that point, like. Especially they had the 5-minute overtime and then the shootout. So he was pretty busy. And I don't know if you guys had heard, he went out and played a game as a forward for his men's league team.
Yeah.
Right
no
after.
Way.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. He's a big hockey guy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
What's it been like to hang out with guys who are in the show, like Garrett Sparks? I mean, you're getting shot on by Dylan Strome, Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves. I mean, I did some broadcasting for the CPHL last year, and it just kind of took my breath away that I was getting to broadcast them. What's it been like to be on the ice with those guys, to play against them, to play with them?
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I mean, for me, for some of these guys, I've been skating with them now like year 6. So like, I guess if this is the right phrase, I guess like the starstruck has kind of worn off a little bit. But it's super awesome for me. I mean, just to be around like, guys who are playing at the highest level in the highest league in, the whole entire world. It's super surreal, especially if I somehow manage to, close my eyes and get lucky and somehow stop it. So it's it's pretty cool for me. It keeps me, you know, pretty humbled, especially you know, if I'm a little bit off, you know, I'm quite aware because, you know, there's a puck going past my earlobe, you know, off the bar and in or whatever. So yeah, no, it's so much fun. Like for the most part, all the guys are, you know, super awesome, and, you know, have been nothing short of, you know, not only super nice human beings, but just super fun to play with, just because it's, you know, it gets pretty competitive, especially I think this next week here is the playoffs and championship. So I think the pace will be picked up a little bit, and I mean, hell, even at the end of the games, you can see if it's a close game. You know, it really gets quick out there, and it's super awesome to be a part of, and I'm super fortunate to be even in the same room, let alone conversation, as half of these guys. So it's pretty surreal, but I'm so happy to be a part of it, and I mean, it's just, honestly, it's so much fun. So I'm pretty damn lucky.
So I didn't even think about it that way. That's a win-win for you. I mean, if it goes in, I mean, that's a fucking NHL player. Of course it's gonna go in. But if you make the save, you're like, fuck yeah, I made the save. Of course I did. Like, it's a win-win.
Yeah. It can be pretty humbling. I mean, as goalies in general, you kind of know when, you know, if you mess up or, you know, don't have a good game, or you know, even if, you know, you screw up just once, you know, that little red light goes off, everyone cheers, and, you know, everyone is quite aware when you mess up. But just the line and the fine line that you kind of have to teeter with, you know, between like staying honest and, you know, being, you know, reading the play. If you're too far ahead, you know, you get somebody goes backhand cheese off the bar and makes you look stupid that way. And, you know, if you're too far behind, they slide it over to a guy for a one-timer, just jams it down your throat. So it's super fun. Also, like, super not fun in the sense, you know, I'm getting scored on some of these times, you know, like 9-10 times. So I mean, like, my dad and stuff will come to the game, and with my grandpa who's getting kind of older, so it's cool for him to, you know, be able to watch me at home, and especially with some of the other guys on the ice. But yeah, he's like, yeah, what happened? You gave up 10 goals, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. You know, I had 3 buzz my earlobes, you know, and right off the bar from about 10 feet out. So I don't know how much there was I could do on that one. So, but
what was it like playing with Mikey Lozano? Nolly and I know Lozo for quite some time. What was it like playing with him?
Eeyore? No. No, Lowe's is honestly, he was, if he was bigger, he wouldn't, you know, have ended up at Lindenwood. He was so smart, and he was like one of those guys who, you know, didn't say much, but when, you know, whenever he did open his mouth, or, you know, whenever he did have something to say, everyone listened.
So we are now joined by a huge guest for us, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, the one and only Bryan Bickell. Bickell, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, great to be on, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So we are huge fans of yours from your time in Chicago, obviously. So we would love to hear a little bit about your time there. So we kind of went back to your Norfolk days, and we were looking at your roster that you guys played with back then. A lot of big names from your Stanley Cup teams. When you guys were all playing together, did you guys feel like you guys were about to start something really special, or was it just kind of like just going with the flow?
No, it was my first year pro, so it was just we're all young, dumb, and stupid shit at the time. But you know, we were just looking to play hockey, get our foot in the door. You know, first year, couple years was in the minor leagues. My first year was in Norfolk, Virginia, which is, you know, first year coming out of the cold and going to the beach. It was pretty nice to live that lifestyle. being away from home, being in the States for the first time, it was something really cool. It was the next step to, the ultimate goal is to play in the NHL. And, it took me a couple of years to get in there. But my first year, you can look at the guys, Bufflin and Versteeg, Brouwer, Crawford, and we had a couple of heavyweights on there too, with Reed Lowe and David Kochi. So we had some nice protection if you did anything stupid, because the league was a lot tougher than it is now. But overall, it was one of the greatest years of my career.
Once you finally got the call up, what was it like moving to Chicago? A lot of guys move here and they end up staying here. I mean, people love it here in Chicago. I mean, what was it like moving there and finally making it onto the NHL and playing with guys like Taze and Kane?
It was really cool, to make that step. I got called up over the three years in the minors. But just to get that foot after the 2010 team was my real chance. I had one of the main call-ups for the team to get that next step to, put my foot in the door and have a good career. That was the year. I had bring up the stats. I had almost 20 goals and blah, blah, blah. I don't really know. It was a checking line with Bolland. But it kind of kick-started my career. It's unbelievable. Chicago was, from where it was when I got drafted in 2004 with the fans and things like that. Obviously the fans were coming around the team with conference finals in 2009, and then obviously winning the cup in 2010, and obviously the history that we've had over the years. It was a second home to me, and it was definitely a good time to be a Hawk.
Yeah, so you talked about like when you came into the Hawks, or you were drafted by the Hawks. That's kind of like, as we call it, the dark days of Chicago Blackhawk hockey. Was there any like moment where you were just like, damn, like, why couldn't I just gone somewhere else? Or were you just excited to be part of like an original six team?
Yeah, I grew up just a small town out of, Toronto, being a Leafs fan growing up and having that original six, kind of feeling. The Hawks were a team that was up and coming. At times when I was playing the minors, I didn't know if I was going to get the chance, and at times I wanted to quit and just do the 9 to 5 and enjoy my friends and my family back home. But, I had a good support system with, now my wife, that we've been together for 17 years. She was there pushing me and driving me to, stick with it and never give up was a thing that I always used. And, I think it paid off pretty good.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Like when the 2013 year, when you guys hoisted the cup again, that was like your first time actually playing the whole playoffs. Was there anything that you did a little bit differently, maybe during the off season, because it was a lockout year, that kind of helped that team start the way it did?
It was tough. It was my contract year. I didn't know if I was going to be playing, in the NHL again. I don't know, the whole season was going to happen. I went overseas and played in, Czech Republic in the Austrian League. Played over there for 3 months, grinded out. There were like 2 practices, 2 workouts a day, and I was like, what the hell am I doing here? This is ridiculous. But overall,
I want to drink some beers.
Definitely got. Yeah, well, I did drink a lot of beer there too, because I remember being in Czech Republic, they don't really speak a lot of English, and I was like, with the guys and had lunch, and I'm like, hey, can I get a water? And then bring a beer. So I was like, all right, I'll drink, I guess. But the lack of communication in English was, slim to none over there. But it was a good experience and got me really, really into shape for the 13 season. And obviously, there's a lot of guys that did that and got ready. And, you can look at the season. We started, red hot and kind of carried it through the playoffs to the cup.
What was going through your head during that whole in game 6 of the final, through that the famous 17 seconds? Like, because you come on, you score that goal, and then Bolland comes in and finishes it up. Like, were you able to even process what was going on before that game-winning goal went in?
Yeah, it was really. I can remember it was like it was yesterday. It was a moment where we're down. Obviously, was it 2-1? Yeah. 2-1. And then we had like a minute and 50 something left, and then I looked to my left, and I was with Hayes and Kane. Kane's going down there, he's doing his thing, dangling, shooting, whatever. And then I looked to my left, and I'm like, oh shit, there's Hansies beside me. So then I was like, pulled the goalie. We pulled the goalie. My attention is like I need to get to the front of that because eventually the puck's going to get there. Couple of plays in the corner, taser slid it through Big Char's legs. Was I looking to shoot it anywhere? I just looking to hit it really hard. It went 5-hole, and then that's what kind of kickstart the 17 seconds. Huge celebration, excited, and like, oh my god, we're gonna go OT. Maybe win it then, and then, you know, sitting on the bench, and then literally it was 17 seconds later, the next rush, and then Bolland, you know, pounding in, and we're all like really freaking out. And it was like trading sticks with legal sticks, and just emotionals were roller coaster was just going up and down. Thinking we're gonna go to Game 7, OT, and then winning a Stanley Cup in literally like 30 seconds. It was a crazy moment. I know, you know, the fans and all that, you know, people remember the historic 17 seconds.
What are the parades like for you guys? Like, I mean, it's just, there's so many people, obviously, like being in the crowd, it's one thing, you know, just having everybody around you, but like you guys in the middle of it, being up high, seeing everybody, what's it like during the parades?
It's something cool. Like, it's, you know, we play for each other, we play for the team, but we play for the fans, and the Chicago Blackhawk fans are, you know, if not the best, you know, fan base in the world and in hockey by itself. Obviously it wasn't like that, and now it's, you know, something really big, and the team, the city, the fans have accepted, you know, what we've done and appreciated, and then with all the hard work and all the, you know, tears and blood and scars, and come out to celebrate a day that, you know, a lot of players that don't really get the opportunity to do is to win the Stanley Cup and have that day. You'll never forget. I was lucky to do it a couple times. There's Hall of Famers that, you know, never made the finals. It's one of those things that, you know, that's something special, and have a city like Chicago behind us and celebrating in different ways. It was you know, a cool moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're gonna be on that cup forever, so I mean that's definitely awesome. So you guys were still kind of young in 2013. Any really good stories that stick out to you in after you guys won the cup, coming back from Boston or in Boston? Anything that really sticks out? I mean, there's got to be some good ones with Kaner or Shaw.
Stupid moments that players did after we won. It was always nice to win on the road. We won in Philly, and then we won in Boston. Boston's fucking rink was shit, if I can swear on the spot.
You can do whatever you want.
But the dressing room was the size of my garage, and it was tough to really get after. You can only have a team and the training staff and coaching staff. But you know, nothing stupid. We partied for, you know, days. Like, it was like a day and a half, and I'm like, it's 2:00 in the afternoon the next day, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. We have a parade to get ready for, and I remember we sleeping in the home, and then I set an alarm to wake up that night, and I thought it was the next morning. And I'm like, I panicked and rushed. I'm like, we got ready for the parade. We need to get there. And it was the next night, and it just those moments that you know, guys, you know, you lived your whole life to do. We, you know, I can't say we were the hardest partiers, but you know, we do it right, and the cup is definitely the biggest party, and you have that around, you can kind of have the key to the city and do whatever, and cops or whoever. just kind of bow to and move on, kind of thing.
Just getting to show up wherever you want and just do whatever you want sounds pretty goddamn great.
Yeah.
So one question we like to ask everybody is, what's your favorite all-time hockey memory? Like, could be from when you were a kid, could be, through your NHL, like any one thing that really stands out as a favorite.
Let's take out the cups.
One that there's so many that I don't know if I can just pinpoint one. I think obviously the number one would be the 17 seconds goal. Obviously, it was a historic, goal to start I think one of the biggest comebacks in hockey's history to win a Stanley Cup in 17 seconds. Obviously, your first game, first goal, your last game, last goal, and things like that are, close number twos. And but definitely the 17 seconds that definitely helped me get paid and support the family.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not be upset about getting paid after winning a cup?
Yeah. It was good. Like I had an opportunity to, leave and get paid more to play in a different city, but to be a part of the Hawks and now always be a part of the Hawks, you don't want to leave, something like that. And I know, winning again, that was the ultimate goal to do. And I could say I won it twice. So
Special guest joining us today. We're sticking with the Bees, with former Blackhawk player, former Stanley Cup champion in 2013, former CPHL champion. We're going to discuss which one was more important to him. Native of Missouri, Brandon Bollig joins the show. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on, man.
No problem, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So with you being a St. Louis native, then growing up, did you, hate the Blackhawks as much as Blackhawk fans hate the Blues, or, how did that go?
It's pretty wild. I actually didn't, oddly enough. So all growing, I was a Blues fan growing up, no doubt. And then when I was in college and after my sophomore year of college, the Hawks, after my freshman year, the Hawks invited me to their development camp, and I ultimately did well, and they continued to scout me that entire next season, my sophomore year, and ultimately after that season, I had, I guess, shown them enough to where they offered me a contract, and I took it. So obviously from that point, probably from the time they invited me to development camp, my allegiance definitely shifted over to them, and the Blues were kind of just a team I used to like, I guess, but. It's pretty crazy because growing up, we have a pool in our backyard. I had this Blackhawks towel that I used all the time. My old man does flooring. That's what, he's done flooring my whole life, and he'll make, he'll install floors, but he also makes like area rugs. And he thought, I guess when I was younger, I was so young, I don't remember him ever even making it, but my entire childhood growing up, there was a Hawks Indian head, carpet, like he made it out of carpet, all different pieces of carpet, pieces them together and made this area rug of this Blackhawks Indian head. We still have it actually in our basement, which is funny. But randomly, just because he thought the logo looked cool and for whatever reason decided to make it. So we had a couple other things. Like for the longest time, because of I was at a Blues game, was a huge Brett Hall fan, and his dad, Bobby Hall, was there all the time. And when I was a kid, I got to meet him, and he signed a little mini hockey stick, but it was a Blackhawks mini hockey stick, and signed it to me and all that stuff. So I had random Hawk stuff in my house growing up, and it was kind of weird because, again, like I was a big Blues fan. I remember watching all kinds of Blues games growing up, but then it was kind of funny, once I ultimately signed with the Hawks, and then, obviously I ended up playing for them and all that. It was just funny. We still have the beach towel, we still have the area rug, and I still have that little hockey stick that Bobby Hall gave me. So it's pretty wild to have had all that. And surely when I signed with the Blackhawks, I got a lot of crap from my family and friends, and I heard it a million times when we were coming to town and play the Blues. It was, I'm not rooting for the Blackhawks, but I'll root for you. I'm like, that's fine. That's all I can ask for, or whatever. But so it was pretty awesome. Obviously I actually got to play the Blues my fourth my fourth ever NHL game, and we got to play in St. Louis. And so I was absolutely fired up for that. I mean, I was fired up because I'd only been in the NHL for like a week at this point, but my whole, like my first game was at the United Center. I was pretty stoked about that. And then we had a few others in between, but I knew on the schedule was coming up in St. Louis. And I'm like, man, all I want is just to stick around long enough to be able to play in St. Louis. And it'd be so sweet. Ultimately, I did. And actually Ryan Reeves and I fought first shift, like right off the bat. I maybe played 3 seconds of hockey before we actually ended up fighting it.
Welcome home.
It was awesome, man. I had probably 15 buddies there, a bunch of family, and I had to get that fight out of the way so I could focus on actually playing hockey. But man, I was fired up. We had a long fight. That was probably one of our better fights. I fought him like, I don't know, 6 or 7 times probably, but that was probably one of our best. And it was awesome, man, because it was back in my hometown, for the very first time, first shift. All my boys were there. It was pretty sweet.
I have one final question for you.
Sure.
And it was the first one that we thought of when we knew we were going to get you on the show. The stick handling video with Patrick Kane.
Yeah.
First and foremost, was he nervous after he saw yours?
So the whole thing about this was so funny, because honestly, anytime fans or even other players that I played against, like after I did that video, I had so many guys come up to me at face-offs the rest of that year that would be like, "Hey, dude, that video was so funny," and I'm like laughing, like I'm gonna try to kill you here in 5 seconds, but all right, I appreciate it. but it was just so funny because Kaner does that. He did it for Bauer. It was like a Bauer promo video. So he does it. We all see it. It came out, and we all see it, and we're like, "What?" I'm like, "There's no way." I'm like, "Dude, they had to have sped this up." I'm like, "Did they?" And he's like, "Honestly, I kind of thought the same thing, but they told me they did not speed this up." He's like, "I don't think it's sped up." He's like, "They could have been lying, but I don't think it was." I'm like, "Well, that's a little fucked." Like, I don't think I've ever seen like all the people that try to do these videos, man. And like, I honestly bet you there weren't too many mess ups that he did. Like, I bet it didn't take him that long. But so he does this video and we're all like, "Oh my God, all right, that's pretty wild." So I said something to our PR staff, I think the day I saw it or maybe the next day, whatever it was. I'm like, "Hey," like, and I don't even know why I thought of this, but it was my idea. I was like, "Hey, would you guys ever be interested in doing like a spoof of that? Like, that'd be kind of funny, no?" And I was actually thinking they'd be like, "All right, beat it, buddy. Like, nobody wants to see you stick handling." And so I said that, and they're like, "Oh, let's think about it, and we'll get back to you." I'm like, "All right, that's a no." And then so the next day yeah, appreciate your time. But so maybe a day or two later, they come back jacked up. Like, they were like, "Hey, are you still want to do that video? Let's do it. That'd be so funny. Can you come to the rink today?" After, I think we actually were in training camp. They're like, "Can you come to the rink today and do it?" I'm like, "Well, all right." So something changed here. Somebody told you that we got to get this done. So I'm like, "All right, yeah, let's do it." So we go there, and we were all just kind of thinking of funny ideas on how to spoof this thing. And so we just kind of started, as you see, we just kind of started. And, I wasn't necessarily, people always ask, like, "Were you trying to be that terrible?" Like, yeah, to an extent, for sure. Like, obviously I am not on the same level as he was in stick handling through these pucks. But, that maybe the first stage, like with like 4 or 5 pucks out there, I can muck around in between there and do all right. But once it gets going, I'm like, all right, I do want this to be hilarious. So even like that one point I like fall, and they were asking, different ideas. And we just ended up doing like the slide was my idea, like sliding through all them. I think one of them came up with the snow angel one that we did. And so we were just all kind of collectively and coming up with this what we were going to do. And they took a couple of shots. And then at the end, I forget what he does. I think he picks the puck up on his stick and throws it at the camera to finish the video. And I was like, "Hey, like, what about, obviously I like fight. How about I end up somehow in the stands, and I'm like, I either punch the camera or whatever. I do something to like wrestle it down." And they're like, "Oh, that'd be awesome." So then we, it was a collaborative effort for sure. And man, we got done, and I want to say they edited that thing either that day or the next day, and no joke, I just remember seeing it all over. Like, again, we were still in training camp, so it was all over, like TSN and all that stuff, and I was like, oh my God, what in the hell? Like, this is like my first like viral type of thing, and I was like, what is going on here? And I'm not kidding you, man. Like, it seemed like every game another player was mentioning the video, and every time I met a fan, they talked about it, and still people talk about it. So I'm like super stoked that I even asked to do it, or even had the idea that, like I said, I never thought that, that would even come to fruition, but it was just pretty cool to do it. And still, like I said, people will tweet me like gifts from it. And like people were asking me the other day about it. And so anytime I respond to it, it's like people just get so stoked. So that was one that I was pretty excited how it turned out.
So today we are joined by a very special guest. He was a member of the 2010 Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks. Probably one of the best shot blocking defensemen on that team. Brent Sopel. Brent, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Feeling good.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on. So let's kind of start this kind of early for you. So you're growing up in Canada, it's every little Canadian's dream to become a professional hockey player. When was the moment for you that you kind of realized that could be possibly a reality for you?
I don't know when that was, if there was ever a time. I was a kid. I wasn't overly talented. It was a lot of my work ethic, so I always had to keep my head down and just continue to work. So as long as I did that, I was fine. So I don't know if there was ever, a defining moment. I had to kind of, break all odds, all the way through to get to where I got.
Was it kind of like once you made it to the show, you're like, oh shit, holy crap, I'm here.
Yeah, it's they always say it's, one thing to get there, and then it's another to stay there.
Absolutely. So you got drafted by the Canucks and made a debut in '99 with some of the guys on that team. Was it a little bit intense just seeing like the stars like Naslund and Messier?
Yeah, it's obviously your first NHL game, and that was here in Chicago, and we had obviously Mark Messier on the team. Hall of Famer, goes down one of the best captains ever. McGillney, we had some pretty big names. So, anytime you play your first NHL game, you're quite nervous, and not sure how it's going to end up going, but it was just start of some great things for me.
Was there anybody on that team that kind of like took you under their wing, kind of showed you the ropes about being a pro?
You know what? All my teams, when I was in Vancouver when I was younger, we had great guys from start to finish. That it really took me under the wing. I played a lot of my time in Vancouver with defenseman Matthias Bolland. By far the most skilled and best defenseman I've ever played with. So, I had that guy as a partner. We had some veteran guys, Adrian Coyne, he played in Chicago, Murray Barron, just some guys like that. So it's to get any success, in the league, you need veteran guys to help you out here, through the tough times. It's the best league in the world. So if you don't have that help, then forget it.
Eventually, you ended up with our Chicago Blackhawks. Was there anything that you were feeling about that team that was like a little bit special when you first joined, or is there any reason you decided to sign there in general?
They brought me in and they explained that they wanted me to bring in some leadership and bring in some veteran presence and teach Kane Tays how to be a pro and what the NHL is all about, and work with Brent Sopel and Dr. Keith and continue to get them to evolve their game. So for me it was a spot where I could help kids grow, and I was lucky enough to be part of something special and watch all four of them grow into not only unbelievable hockey players, but great men also.
So yeah, that 2010 team was it felt so special because it always seemed like you guys were, no matter the situation, you guys just seemed like you were going to come out with a win. And that kind of goes to like my next question here with when we were talking around about telling people that you're coming on the show. The number one thing everybody asked us to ask you about was that game-winning overtime goal in Game 5 against Nashville when you come into the zone, play up, and then you get the puck over to Hossa for that game winner. What was like that adrenaline rush after that? Well, I mean, that place had been going absolutely insane after that.
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. Lift the roof off. It was loud. For the anthems, it was loud all the way up to there, but that took it to another level. And that was definitely the turning point of the playoffs for us. We're lucky to get a win out of there, and sometimes you gotta be lucky to be good, and gotta good to be lucky. So we got a lucky balance, and made them pay, and found a way to get that OT winner.
Yeah, from there it seemed like you guys were pretty much just like foot on the pedal, just full gas all the way through the rest of the playoffs. You guys kind of have a good feeling in your bones that you're like, this is the year that we're going to take it? Or was it just kind of like you didn't feel that until you actually had that game over in that overtime Game 6 in Philadelphia?
Yeah, no, you don't jump to any conclusions too quickly. It's obviously a tough trophy to win for a reason, and we had some tough teams to beat still. But we got in the zone as a group. Moving forward, worried about the task at hand, and we knew we got lucky there, but I think that made us focus a little bit harder, and tackle each game a little bit differently. And once we all got locked in, it was fun to be a part of.
Is there a favorite hockey memory for you that really stands out, whether it was for you playing or maybe watching the game as a kid, or anything that happened throughout your hockey career that just really stands out and something you'll never forget, that you cherish forever?
Well, obviously you win the cup, that you never forget that. You never forget your first game, my first goal. I ended up scoring. Ended up being a 1-1 tie, but it was my third game in the league, and it was hockey night in Canada in Vancouver. First game that my parents got to see live, and it was broadcast right across Canada. So that was pretty special.
One of the stars of the mega hit show Letterkenny, you know him as Riley. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Dylan Playfair. Dylan, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. Thanks for having me on.
How surreal is it that this all started like on YouTube and now you're global with this?
It's wild, man. I mean, the show started out with basically a beer league hockey team. I mean, me and Andrew, who played the two hockey players, we were playing beer league hockey with the Trappers, which was the name of our team out in Vancouver, BC. And Jerry Kisa was our captain. We still call him Cap. And it's wild. He was our captain. Nate Dales, one of the other farmers, he plays dairy. He was a line mate of me and Herzies. And Jamie Lapointe, who actually plays the ginger, was also one of our star forwards. So we had a dream team in the locker room. And after actually Jamie was one of the guys who sort of put it on Kiso's table, because Andrew and I had just finished playing Brothers in the Gordie Howe story for Mr. Hockey, and we played hockey playing Brothers, and Jamie saw that and he goes, "Hey, you played Don Cherry in the CBC story. You guys should go full circle and bring the hockey players up for an episode of the YouTube series Letterkenny." And we came out and had a successful 2-minute clip there, and I guess the rest is history. It's friggin' awesome, though, man. It's cool to make content with your friends.
Is like your role as Riley, a hockey player, obviously we all know you played hockey. You said you played men's league. Was it kind of a easy transition? Like, do you still feel kind of connected to like the hockey world in that way? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like my father's a NHL coach. He actually just signed with the Edmonton Oilers as an assistant for this year. So we're really stoked about that. And then I grew up playing the game. The highest level I played was junior A in the BCHL, and my middle brother Jackson still plays pro. He's playing for the Orlando Solar Bears in the East Coast League. And my youngest brother Austin played in the Western League, and he actually moved up to Vancouver 2 years ago. He wrecked his shoulder in his second season in the Western League, and then decided to take his Western League scholarship and actually went to fashion school, which is kind of neat. But yeah, you know, hockey family through and through. My uncle played for Buffalo and Los Angeles, so I mean there was a lot of hockey around the family. And you know, it's kind of funny playing such a dim-witted hockey player, because you think, you know, there might be a little bit of bad blood, but the hockey community has received us with open arms, and it's been absolutely fantastic. It's funny, actually, my dad was busting my chops when he got the job in Edmonton. A lot of the tweets that were going around were less about him coming in and more about Riley. Does this mean Edmonton gets Riley? So yeah, it's come full circle. I'm like, I'm the one wearing the cape now, Dad.
That's awesome. So you guys got some really good chirps between you and your partner there. I mean, any of those? Riley. Yeah. Yeah. Any of those like ones that you guys have had before, or are they all just written down by Jim?
You know, what'll happen, most of it comes from Kiso, but there have absolutely been times where he's sent me a text and gone, "Hey bud, what's the pulse on the latest and greatest hockey chirps?" And like I said, you know, I got my brothers that are still in the game, so there's been a couple seasons where I've texted those two guys and gone, "Hey, what's the deal on the chirps?" And I would get back just pages of gold, and I'll just copy and paste and send it over to them. So a couple of them have made it in there, but yeah, it's definitely nice having those two guys still, you know, in the game in a big way. It helps us with content for sure.
With all the chirps that you and Jonesy are slinging around, do you guys have any like favorite ones that you've used on the show that you kind of use in like beer league games or anything like that?
The one the one chirp that actually is kind of meta. I one time this guy at beer league he was chirping me, and I chirped him. I go, he goes, "Do you get paid to play hockey that badly?" And I go, "No, but I get paid to look this good." and Kiso on the bench heard me, and he goes, "Did you just tell that guy you get paid to look as good as you look?" I'm like, "Yeah, because fucking Riley's a good-looking dude." I realized what I had said, and I was like, "That sounds so much worse out loud than it did in my head." He goes, yeah, we got to work that into the show sometime. So in the heat of the moment, I was pretty self-indulgent in my Pantene Pro V flock of hair. So
that's so perfect. Do you ever catch anybody on the other team rocking 22 and just go at them with the twos?
You know, because the beer league that I play now, a lot of the guys just have the friggin' numbers taped on. But it's funny, man. It's hard for me to personally, like, as Dylan, to lean into someone. Like, Riley's really, really good at it. But, I mean, I was such a meathead when I played back in the day. Like, my last season in junior, I had 0 goals, 1 assist, like 100-some times. I was just, like, fighting everybody and hitting everything. So now that I don't have to do that to stay on a team, I'm kind of just like, yeah, buddy, go for it, man. Like, you want to get the puck in the corner? I don't give a shit. It's all good. I'm going to float high. That's optional, boys. I'm third guy high in every friggin' rush there is. So my on-ice personality has definitely shifted quite a bit since the career thing. I mean, I had to put a cage on. That was probably for me the biggest change, was going from a visor to a cage. I'm like, it's hard to chirp from behind this thing now.
Some of them are bouncing back at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuart! All right, so now we are joined by a extremely special guest. He is one of the stars of the mega hit Letterkenny. You know him as Stuart. Please welcome to the show, Tyler Johnston.
No problem at all, guys. I'm happy to be here. I mean, the name of your podcast sums up a big portion of my life, so I figured it was just appropriate.
Oh man, that's awesome. So let's start with that then. So did you have you played hockey growing up at all?
My whole life, I grew up playing the sport, I remember learning to skate on some of those double blade skates that, they used to put kids on when one of the lakes froze over, and, I've been playing ever since. My old man coached me for a bunch of years, the 5 a.m. practices and what have you, and played all the way up to juvenile when I was about 21 years old. And then now I just kind of casually play, have a couple beers after perhaps, and play some roller hockey as well in the summertime. So,
it's truly living the dream, right there.
I hung up my professional aspirations, but I still love the game.
So you do the 5 a.m. practice. That's why the Canadians are always beating the Americans, because, we start at 6 a.m. So you guys got that extra hour on us.
Yeah, exactly. We're up an hour early. Yeah, well, it's because we got to actually warm our car up usually. But we were up real early. I remember that, being 10, 11 years old, and my dad picking up a couple of the guys who lived in the neighborhood, and going to being the first guys on the ice in the morning, and getting cleaned up after hockey and going right to school.
Yeah, and now you're one of the last ones on the ice every night when you're in men's league.
Yeah, exactly, because I shown up 4 minutes before the puck drops.
Exactly.
Do you think that first let me ask this. We asked this to Nathan and Dylan when we had them on. Has it really sunk in with you, exactly how big this actually is becoming, or is it still kind of you have to kind of pinch yourself a little bit?
Yeah, it's happened at kind of a nice steady pace. It wasn't like we released season 1 and it just kind of blew up. It's been a nice gradual growth rate, but that being said, it is still hard to wrap, our heads around. I'll speak for myself, of course, but we're about to embark on a North American wide Letterkenny Live tour, and if you told me that 4 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. Not because I didn't think the show had potential, but just you don't really think of those things as an actor who's kind of just happy to be on a brand new show. And, we're going to do 38 cities and do 41 shows across North America come February, March, and April. And I don't think that's going to set in until maybe week 2 when we're on the bus playing crib and drinking whiskey and doing whatever it is we're doing. And, again, I'm happy to be a part of the show and along for the ride.
Your character and Rolly, you guys might become the best duo on this show, in my opinion. The chemistry you guys share, just on the show in general. How was it easy finding that with Evan?
That has also been a very fun relationship that's continued to grow because. Originally there was 5 of us kids, and then when it became just sort of Stuart and Roll taking over the reins, we just started spending a lot of time together. And he is a very funny actor who is willing to kind of just go with the flow. So sometimes I will try something and he will join in and go with me, and vice versa. Sometimes he'll suggest something, and then it kind of just takes a life of its own. We like to get together a couple nights before we get to set. We run our scenes. We play with different ideas of things that we might be fun, that we think might be fun, and bring it to set. And as long as Jacob, the director, doesn't shoot it out of the sky, sometimes it makes the show.
Yeah, if he hasn't shot anything out of the sky yet, I don't know what he will, because there's some pretty ridiculous things going on.
There's such ridiculous things, and believe it or not, he has shot down some of our ideas. So you can only imagine what
I would love to see what those were.
Do you get that a lot in public? Do you just hear Stuart's down walking down the street or anything like that?
No one yells Stuart. They'll stop me and say hello and what have you. I was in a great restaurant last night in Vancouver called Pigeon, and the owner came up and just said he was a huge fan of the show, and we got to chatting, and he, gave me a couple samples of some of his favorite sake. So that came in handy last night.
Nice.
One of my favorite Sturt stories. I don't know if I've told this before. I might have. It was in summer last year, and I was on Vancouver Island up in British Columbia here. I was going to a music festival, and Snoop Dogg was headlining the Saturday night. And I ended up making friends with the guy whose father ran the festival. So he's friends with Dylan Playfair. He and I became friends. So we were at his house on the lake, just kind of enjoying the day. And all of a sudden, his dad leans over the railing and goes, "Hey, is Tyler still here? Can he come upstairs?" So as I'm walking upstairs, I start hearing Sturt, 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 Sturt. And I look around the corner, and it's Snoop Dogg's crew. So the crew that he rolls with, I don't know if if they're the sound guys or the DJs or what have you. And they said they were big fans of the show and they wanted to hang out and chat. So all of a sudden I'm sitting down with Snoop Dogg's crew, and they're calling me Sturt, and I'm just trying to act as cool as I possibly can. That was a fun one. Yeah.
Holy shit. You're just sitting there like, I am Stuart now. This is me.
Yeah, you call me whatever you want. I'm just happy to be here. I wish I asked if Snoop watched the show, but again, I was trying to be cool. I didn't want to super fanboy out, But I'm sure I did anyway, so I should have just asked.